I'd like to welcome everyone who is with us tonight. I am Tara Sparks. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for the district, and I'll work to help monitor tonight's Q&A. If you notice the features on your Zoom, there's a Q&A feature where you can ask questions to our panelists. And we encourage you to put questions into that, and then we'll use that to facilitate part of the conversation as the event progresses. It's my pleasure to introduce our Coordinator of Safety and Security. And I have to say that before Terrell Baker joined us, we had no idea what we didn't know. He has really been transformative in terms of supporting the work of our district and making sure that we have a safe and secure environment for our students. A significant number of changes have been put into place because of his leadership, and he is an incredible asset to the district. So Terrell, thank you for everything you do on a daily basis. And I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our presenters.
Well, thank you very much. A couple of weeks ago, I just sat back and I just looking through all of the prior series. And I was just thinking, you know, what's missing here? What haven't we discussed? And I quickly went to my boss's office and I said, "Hey, Dr. Sparks, I want to bring in a series and talk to our SROs because I feel that the parents need to know who they are. They need to know their duties and responsibilities, what they do to keep our schools safe, and more importantly, how amazing they are." I have the opportunity to work with some amazing people every day, not only just with educators, with the support staff here, but our law enforcement community. You know, they're just amazing people, and I feel that the parents need to know exactly who they are and what they do. So that's the whole objective of this series, is to introduce them. Now, Officer Kriska has been here for a while. However, we got two new officers, so I feel that parents should know them as well. So that's what this series is about, to bridge any gaps that, if there are any, which I doubt there are, but to just basically inform and just make sure that parents know exactly who they are. Tony, can you bring up the slide presentation, please? Now, as we go through this round table, as we go through the slides and everything, I'll be asking some questions in between the slides as well. So again, like Dr. Sparks said, just feel free to ask questions and we'll go from there. But what we're going to get into is some history about the SRO program, how it was established, duties and responsibilities, how they engage students. And before we get into that, I want the SROs to introduce themselves. But I not only want them to introduce themselves, I want them to break down and give them a real bio, because I want parents to know that. I think it's very important. So if you guys want, I can start off so you can model some of the things that I just think they're important. You guys may not think so, but I really do. So a little bit of background about myself. I'll just go first. I'm originally from South Side of St. Louis. I'm a South City guy. I grew up and I went to the Boys Club of St. Louis, where you know, I strived in different sports there. If you don't know, the Boys Club of St. Louis is located in Soulard, and it's a population there that's, you know, it's kind of like a melting pot, and that's where I come from. That's where I grew up at, just learning sports and being with other different cultures. From there, I moved on and I was in the DSEG program, and I went to high school and graduated from Parkway South High. After graduation, and I'll just tell my age, in '92, I decided to join the military. My family is a big military family. Most of my aunts and uncles have been in, well, all different branches. But of course, I wanted to be different. No one had joined the greatest fighting force in America, which is the United States Navy. So I decided, look at Marcus. So I decided to join the Navy, and I knew that I was going to excel and do that for my career, and I wanted to be a military police officer, and I wanted to be a chief petty officer. So I strived at that. So that's what I did. I retired in 2013, and once a decision to come back home and settle in St. Louis, I decided to be a federal police officer with the Department of Veterans Affairs. I did that for the last 6 years, and then I seen this wonderful opportunity to come on board and be a part of this, I want to say, unit here. Let me get the military mindset out, but this community, this great community, and I've been doing the job for about 2 years now, and I absolutely love it. So enough about me. This is about them, and so I would like for them to go ahead and introduce themselves.
I'll go first. I am Jeff Kriska. I've been with Lindbergh Schools now for 10 years. Started my career in Manchester, did 5 years there, and then came to St. Louis County. Been in St. Louis County for 14 years. My brother Craig is also a police officer. I had aunt and uncles that were police officers, firemen, and I followed in my brother's shoes. I became an SRO when one of my captains came to me and said, "Hey, we have an opening in Lindbergh. Would you like it? I think you would be a great fit there." I started it and loved it and been doing it ever since.
Some of you guys have met me, some of you haven't. I was on a previous speaker series. My name is Officer Marcus Brooks. My career started with the military as well. I joined the Army right out of college and did one tour in Afghanistan, which I recently returned from. And as soon as I got back, I sought a position for working with Lindbergh. And so, I've had recommendations from friends who lived in the Lindbergh School District. So I applied for the job, and now I'm the SRO up at the high school. I've been with St. Louis County for going on 5 years now, and was an SRO previously up in the Hazelwood School District. And this is my first year with Lindbergh School District.
I guess that means it's my turn. Hi, I'm Kelly Eller. I've been a police officer with St. Louis County for 12 years. I worked for St. Louis City prior to that. So we don't really need to do the math on all that, but I got into working with the schools in about 2009. I was an SRO for the Melville School District for 5 years and did a lot of training with different programs for the schools to teach. So I've had lots of opportunities to work with kids in the schools. And right now I have come to Lindbergh with the police athletic program that St. Louis County is expanding. And I'm excited to be able to bring that to Lindbergh Elementaries, which I happen to be alumni. So just that. So that's about it.
I left this slide and kind of want to go back and talk about the history of the SRO program, why it was established. And I like Officer Kriska, if you can give a little in-depth information about how the program was established.
Well, I did a little research on this today, Terrell, and actually the school resource program started in the mid-1950s, where officers were brought into counselors, and it kept growing and growing. But after Columbine in Colorado, after the school shooting, that is when school resource program really took off. Everybody knows that school shootings are happening all the time. And that is our main job there, is to protect those kids and keep the danger out. That's kind of the history of the school program. If Marcus or Kelly want to add anything, go ahead. Nobody?
Well, no, so being a former SRO, it was a program dear to my heart. It is something that was implemented more for school safety, but has turned into kind of a more of a counseling and mentoring program that is been expanded for years. So that was back in 2009 that I was an SRO, and I know our community dearly loves our SROs, and they do an amazing job.
So that history actually, it did start in the 1950s, and then it started in Michigan as well. And in the mid 1990s, it started to get popular. I think it started off with a base of like 6,000, and then now in 2020, probably up to like 46,000. Just a little bit more info on that. Next slide, please. I'll let the officers dive into the purpose of the SR program and what makes it successful.
So the purpose of the program overall is to provide meaningful police engagement with our community's youth, and so to be able to provide a positive impact for students while they're young. And previously, we were sent in as counselors. I think we've kind of returned back to that role where we can actually engage with students and with parents as well, if necessary, to provide, meaningful counseling from a law enforcement perspective on how to best serve our students and to provide, good interaction with the students so that when they encounter us, hopefully they don't, but in the case that they encounter us, at a later time in their lives, they have a better idea of what they can expect and what they should expect.
We do have a question in the Q&A regarding SROs at the elementary school and why there are not SROs at our elementary school. And I know that I can share that while our SROs are housed at our secondary schools, they are resources at our elementary schools. And I don't know if you want to add to that statement and the resources you provide there as well.
So what I want everyone to understand that SROs is an extension on our many resources that we have. And when we look at SROs, obviously we want SROs. We wish that we could have SROs at each and every one of our schools. But how do we, if we don't have them there and it's on our radar and we want to actually, mitigate some of those things, how do we mitigate those things? So when we do roving patrols, through our elementary schools. We have another officer that's inside of our elementary schools. So we have to look at other ways until we get there of mitigating that. And we found ways that we can actually mitigate and be inside those schools. I often say, if I'm not in a meeting every day, each and every one of our elementary schools will see me roving there. Officer Eller is inside of our elementary schools now. So the objective is to make sure that those schools are covered as well. And I can tell you that it is on the radar of our leadership at some point to make that happen. But until that happens, we'll mitigate that, and then we'll also add other assets to the elementary schools. Let's take a look at the next slide. So this is one of the things that I wanted to actually get into, so parents understand like the SRO's day-to-day duties and responsibilities. If you guys can touch a little bit more how you do your day-to-day duties, because it may be different from high school to middle school to elementary, kind of break down what your job entails and how you go about your day-to-day business.
Well, I'll start off regarding the high school. Generally, when I arrive in the morning, I get there right as the kids are arriving, getting off the bus. Generally, I just observe the parking lot, make sure that students get into the school without any issue. From time to time, we have a minor accident on the parking lot. I'm there. And so the same goes for Jeff at the middle schools. We're there to, just provide on-the-spot police support, so that interprets to just writing traffic accident reports. And that's a simple thing that we do. But beyond that, once the school day starts, I'm generally walking the halls, monitoring the cameras, And on occasion, I get invitation from teachers within the school if they feel that I have some kind of meaningful insight to provide to something that they may be teaching in the class. So I'll guest speak for different classes and provide information on police-related topics or law enforcement-related topics. I've also been, asked by different students questions related to the military, so just being a current military service member, I provide information on particular career paths that people can take in the military should they choose to do that.
My day is basically the same as Marcus. Start out in the morning with parent drop off, buses, walk the hallways, be down at lunches, talk to the kids. It's pretty tough for me with having 2 middle schools, and then I also rotate through the 4 elementary schools in St. Louis County. So I am pulled around a lot. I move around a lot when I'm on duty. I try to make it to at least every school every day and drive through the parking lots or go inside.
We are, some of the parents who are watching know that we're present during sport events. If we have basketball tournaments, soccer games, football games, we're present for the safety of the parents attending and the people playing in general. So that's what we do for extracurricular activities.
Kelly, you want to talk about how your day goes?
I would. So with the Police Athletic League, the St. Louis County Police Athletic League, we've recently expanded to be able to reach more schools. And my day-to-day activities are surrounded by building relationships with the kids. So I'm less of a security detail. I'm more of the let's build those relationships, and I'm starting with them young in the elementary schools. We plan on implementing some different lessons that we can give the kids for character building, for saying no to drugs, saying no to criminal activity, that kind of thing. It's new. We're just starting in Lindbergh, but it's an excellent program. I've been doing it in other districts, and COVID slowed us down a little bit, but now here we are moving forward. So I will be rotating through all 6 elementaries on Thursdays and Fridays and giving each school a little bit of time and trying to build relationships with each of those kids. Eventually, we will offer some after-school programs, and the PAL membership, the kids can actually participate in some summer activities as well as after-school activities that we'll be able to provide from them. So we'll be able to offer quite a bit to the kids, and it's always a little bit different.
I think that,
And
go
while
ahead.
I kind of glossed over it, I guess it is important to note that we do provide traditional police services as well, if they're necessary on campus or immediately off campus. Obviously, we're there to support you guys. So if you have any questions regarding your child's safety or something going on that's criminal in nature, we're there to answer questions, take reports, do investigations, etc.
So I see a couple of other questions in the chat. I want to take an opportunity to ask the SROs their input on this particular question. So question says, what are some of the major differences between your duties and responsibilities as a street officer versus SRO duties? If you guys can chime in on that.
The major difference is our direct and specific interaction with the schools. As a street officer, we're forced or required to respond to any number of calls in a day-to-day basis. But with the schools, we're tethered specifically to the schools. We don't respond to calls on the street unless it directly relates to a student of Lindbergh School District. Obviously, we spend more time interacting with kids and presenting and teaching in classes than we do dealing with criminal action. So that's the major and most important difference between working on the street and working in the school.
So I could actually say you're more of, I mean, you're still law enforcement, and you would be a mentor, a counselor, and an educator. That's what I get from that.
Yeah, it is much
Yeah.
more heavily education focused and mentor focused than it is law enforcement focused.
Another question, do you communicate with the Early Childhood Center if there's a disturbance at Lindbergh High School?
We do. We're required
Yes,
to.
they do call us.
Yep. Mhm.
I handle the one at Truman, and Marcus handles the one on the high school campus.
Let me take another question. How do you continue to engage students in this COVID world we live in today?
I can tell you,
Do you guys think it's harder? I mean, how do you go about it?
I mean,
It's a lot
on
harder.
on an individual
Go ahead.
basis, we still get to talk to students. I mean, it's just following simple social distancing protocols. Otherwise, as far as presenting in classes, up to this point, all of my presentations that I've done for different teachers have been through Zoom, which the kids are familiar with, the students are familiar with, because that's what we've been doing since we started the school year. Obviously, it's much more engaging if we can, be present in person, speaking to the class, and generally you're going to garner a bit more participation when you're speaking to the students in person. But with things like Zoom that has a question and answer function, kids don't have to necessarily interrupt. They can type a question in. We can kind of keep the conversation rolling when we're doing presentations or having discussions.
What were you gonna say, Jeff?
Oh, it's little more difficult to talk to kids with the mask on and everything else. It's hard to recognize kids when they're walking down the hall, just call them by name, stuff like that. It's a little more difficult.
How's that for PALS, Kelly?
Well, we were fortunate enough over this prior summer to be able to do small groups, so we kept the numbers low, followed protocol, masks, hand sanitizers. And we've been very fortunate to be able to keep our program going just in small numbers. And now that we're allowed bigger numbers, I hope to implement after school activities for more children at a time. So it's been difficult and challenging, but we're making it work.
Next slide, please. So one of the biggest things as far as SROs is, engaging students and trust. I mean, I'd like to know, how does that look, or how do you guys do that or work on that? How do you accomplish that?
Well, it's definitely not it's definitely not something that's developed overnight. I think the trust between the student and the SRO is mainly built through presence and positive interaction on a regular basis. I mean, it's not with any individual, when we meet somebody brand new or we attempt to make rapport, in the sense of a law enforcement perspective, we're required to do a number of things, to gain that immediate rapport. But given that you're in a school, we're interacting with hundreds of kids on a regular basis. So we don't necessarily get that one-on-one engagement with kids all the time. And, it's impossible to engage with all of the students. So, if we do things and we're present for, athletic games and we're talking to students, talking to parents, speaking in classes so kids are familiar with your face and your ideas, and how you do your job. Those are all ways that little by little we create that rapport with students, with teachers and administrators as well. And that slowly builds a trust. And so you had to be present in a particular location for long enough that the faculty and the students are familiar with you and know you by name.
Yeah, the one thing I always tell kids is I'll never lie to them, and I don't want them to lie to me. Once you lie to each other, that trust is kind of split off. So we're going to go at it right away. We're going to tell the truth and move on.
And Jeff, you've been here for a while, so I can imagine, some of the other
Started my 10th year.
some of the other siblings.
What's that?
I can imagine some of the other siblings just talking about you and saying, hey, Officer Kriska's here, and, just passed down from, generational family to
Right.
family.
Yeah.
So they know about you. Um,
Yes.
whereas like Marcus and Kelly, they're brand new. So, getting out engaging, and then especially through this COVID environment, I can imagine how hard that was. But
Yeah.
it's like you guys are getting around.
All right, we've got another question. What's the difference between the PALS role and the SRO role?
All right, well, I'll take that one because now I've been both. So the SRO role is with the school, you're going to provide law enforcement to the school and also be that resource, which is why it's school resource officer, to the staff, the students, the families. PAL is a program that's designed to interact with the youth of our community all throughout St. Louis County, and to be able to start building positive relationships between law enforcement, kids, families. And a great place for us to begin that are in our schools. So while I'm less law enforcement in the schools at the time that I'm there, I don't go in uniform, I go in gym clothes, I participate in their activities to bond with them. But I can still provide them with law enforcement advice, show up in uniform once in a while so they see that real people are police officers. And I'm also able to keep an eye out for kids who might be at risk or might be having problems at home. And I'm able to interact with them on that level or advise other officers that might be able to help in an area that I can't. So I'm still 100% law enforcement. I can help where it's necessary, but the SROs are more of the official officer on duty. I'm the fun cop. Not great.
So I see another question. Let's get to this one. Are SROs present during disciplinary proceedings?
No, and you can speak to this as well as I can, Terrell. We are there for law enforcement purposes as it relates to discipline, but there's a strong divide between school discipline and law enforcement discipline. What the school and the school district deems, necessary for a disciplinary hearing, they handle that internally, and we're left separate. Sometimes cases arise where a student is present for a disciplinary hearing for same thing that we potentially had to write a police report for. But understand that the police report and actions that we take as law enforcement are separate from what the school does. So we are not present for hearings for students.
That's very important because I wanted to make sure that came out, because there's a narrative out there that, some parents or some people may think that SROs control or do discipline, and that's no, they don't. They do not discipline students. That's zero tolerance. Jeff, do you have anything you want to?
No, I mean, Marcus said, we deal with the criminal matter. We don't deal with the discipline part of a school. That's up to the principals and everybody else. We're criminal. That's it.
And that's not to say that when we deal with students, even in the vein that we have to deal with students on the law enforcement aspect, if the students are receptive, then, I can speak for myself, and I think Jeff's the same way. Our job is not just to process paperwork. It's also to speak to the student, to try to understand why they're doing what they're doing, to get them to understand why they're doing it, and hopefully coach them and mentor them through the process so they understand that, one, they could do better, and two, that some of the things they're doing could lead them, down the wrong path once they get out of school, especially high school when you enter adulthood.
Next slide, please.
As we go to the next slide, there's also a question about being in uniform. Are you armed when you're on campus? Do you still work for St. Louis County, or are you full-time Lindbergh Schools? Just to kind of additionally clarify that rule.
Yeah, so Jeff and I, we do work for St. Louis County. We contract with the schools. Dual heading, working with the schools and working with St. Louis County. We are still police officers. We carry our duty firearm with us. That's just the standard uniform that we're required to wear. And obviously that allows us to be protective of the school and to, still do our job if the need were to arise. So we are armed. It's been in our policy actually that we should, take steps in some effort to kind of mitigate presence of, our duty weapon inside the school. So it's a thing that while it is there, it's not something that we highlight or try to present to the students.
I agree. We work for St. Louis County, and as I've always told people, we are a guest in Lindbergh schools. We're there to protect the kids.
All right. Well, and that leads to me, it looks like our next slide is about PAL. I am armed. I am a full police officer with St. Louis County, and that's who I work for. And like Jeff said, I'm a guest in the school. I secure my weapon because I participate in athletic activities with the kids, but it's accessible if need be. So should I start talking about PAL a little bit?
Go ahead.
All right. Okay, so the Police Athletic League, I've touched on it a little bit. What we do is we serve the youth of St. Louis County throughout the county. And we've recently expanded in the last couple of years to be able to have some more officers and to be able to hit more schools. So we're moving our program around and being able to come south. So I'll visit the schools. I'm focusing on the elementary schools this semester and next year as well. And I'll be visiting all grades at different times during the day while I rotate the schools a couple days a week. And again, we offer the Police Athletic League membership to children. They fill out an application with their parents' approval, and that opens up the door to different programs that we offer. We offer summer camps, spring break camps, summer or winter break camps, and things like that, after school clubs that the children can come and be able to participate in athletic activities. Also, we do things like fishing, swimming lessons, camping, hiking, once in a while, a cool field trip. So it's an amazing program. Kids get to know cops as people. Likewise, I get officers to volunteer from all over the county that volunteer with kids, so they're engaging with kids and they're both learning from one another. It's an amazing program, and I'm really excited. And I think that the parents are going to find out that they're going to really enjoy it as well.
I'll take this next question. It says, thank you for all that you do. Curious if there have been any self-defense presentations either in person or on Zoom with students. The Crestwood PD put on a beneficial 1 hour talk to my daughter and 25 plus young women before they headed to college last year, walking on campus, going to parties, date rape, drugs, etc. I think this would be a helpful topic and great way to build rapport with students. So what my boss doesn't know and what the other SROs don't know is I took in a meeting with the Crestwood police chief. We talked specifically about that, about bringing an actual safety and security academy to the district that would be comprised with Crestwood, Sunset Hills, and St. Louis County law enforcement. This is a class that will be hosted and put on by the school district in collaboration with those three police departments. So this is in the work. I just had a meeting last Friday with the police chief, and we're going to have another meeting with Sunset Hills chief, and then also probably Captain Means from St. Louis County to look at targeting this probably summer 2022 to where we actually have this academy for students, parents, and staff to keep people safe. So this is in the works. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Terrell, another place people can go to is Step Up St. Louis. for quite, they got a lot of resources, and they even put on programs for people.
Yes. Thank you for, can you dive in a little bit more about that, Jeff? Because that's
No,
really,
that's basically what Step Up St. Louis is to teach kids about drugs and everything else. They're a great resource for kids. The person in contact on that is Erin Kelly. Give her a shout and she'll be more than happy to put on a program for kids. That's what their function is, to teach kids about drugs.
We have another question. What can parents do to provide help with SROs, specifically in relationship to their presence at the elementary schools? And I know, I mentioned it earlier, how much Terrell has done in his leadership with regard to safety and security, and the ongoing critical eye that he looks at all of our programs with. And how do we support communications? How do we support access to student safety? That includes the facilities specifically, as well as the systems that ensure that we are getting people where they need to be in a timely manner. So Terrell, I don't know if you want to say anything else to that.
It's just looking at all aspects of safety and security. You have to understand that there's a physical portion, there's a mental portion. Obviously, there's SROs and law enforcement portion, but we need all these pieces combined in order to keep our schools safe. And you have to understand, I want parents to understand that Lindbergh Schools has done their due diligence, and we're continuing this process. We have our resources with our counselors, with our social workers, with our SROs, our PALS officer. Most of you may not know that our security force, they're prior law enforcement. One of them was prior SRO. We're using all these resources in order to keep our schools safe. So I just want the parents to understand that it's levels to it, but we are diligently working on providing every asset that we can in order to provide the safety and security for everyone. You see the construction that's going on, that's the physical part of it. You see our resources with our counselors, that's the mental part of it. You see our law enforcement there, that's the enforcement side of it. All these things working together will keep our schools safe, and we're going to continue to build on that.
Carl, I think you should tell the parents about the new radio program we just came out with too, that we never had.
Terrell's in one of those rooms where the lights automatically go off if you don't move a lot. So that's why he has to keep getting up and turning on the light again.
Sorry, parents, but so.
Terrell, did you hear that?
Yes, sir.
Did you hear that?
Yes, Officer Kreska, I did hear that. You could have talked about it.
That's your gig, buddy. That's your gig.
Well, one of the biggest things, just looking at the communication piece, we have to be able to communicate with each other. So now we have full communication amongst all of our schools, all of our SROs, and our security staff, which we didn't have, last year. So now we have that. We're able, schools are able to have real-time radio communication with each other in an event, there's an incident that goes on. So we can respond and be there and know exactly what's going on scene prior to SRO, the law enforcement arriving. That's huge in a crisis situation. We don't have to drop down and use our cell phones or other types of communication. It's real communication going on and real time information.
We have one more active question in the Q&A. What, if any, involvement do the SROs have with anti-bullying initiatives throughout the district? And is there a specific program that's now being used in the schools? I know I can speak to the educational side. At the elementary level, we have a program called Second Step. It is both integrated into the classroom and then also as an additional resource for counseling intervention. And then at the secondary level, we have a program, Character Strong, which also focuses on that student social emotional learning component, how to treat each other with respect and empathy, and ensure that those skills are continually developed. What about on the SRO support side?
So in relation to SROs, given that it's my first year, I haven't developed a program with the school specifically, but what I can tell you is that we utilize the Courage to Report system, which is just a simple, it's a phone number that's provided to students. I think we have it displayed in several different locations on campus, but students can, if they observe someone being bullying, and in particular, we're finding bullying is taking place at a much greater rate online, which is a lot more difficult for us to detect as parents and as school resource officers, because generally what happens online, students won't necessarily tell parents unless it gets really bad, and they certainly won't tell, school resource officers. But with that text number line, it allows students an anonymous way to report online bullying, to send screenshots so that, we're made aware and that we can engage with the students, before things get serious to the point where we have to get involved from a law enforcement perspective. I believe Terrell sees those reports, I see those reports, and so do the school administrators. They see the reports as well. So we all as a team get to collaborate on how we want to resolve an issue to best support the kids who's being bullied, and to best speak to and kind of mentor and develop the student who's being accused of the bullying.
And you can that contact number is 866-362-6422. The email where you can send in anonymous tips is Courage to Report mo@mshp.dps.mo.gov. I can put this information in the chat so that way everyone has it. But Courage to Report is actually new in the district. We didn't use it last year, so now it's fully engaged, and our staff are trained on it, and this is what we use to report announcements. Next slide. So that's our presentation for the night. But I want to say thank you to everyone, and thank you to Dr. Sparks for allowing us to, to talk with parents, and hopefully there are students that are on board, that are on looking as well. I just felt it very important to feature our SROs and, talk about, the amazing things they do. I think they're amazing people. I'm glad that I work with them on a day-to-day basis. And I just wanted to share that with the families. You guys have anything?
No, not really, except that, we're fortunate to be able to work in the school district with supportive parents like you guys, and be engaged with students who appreciate us being there. So I haven't worked in other school districts. I can tell you that it's you guys' support means a lot to us being effective as SROs at all levels of grade school, and especially the high school. And I think it's a great benefit for the kids, and a greater benefit for the county overall. So.
There's definitely appreciation for what you do on a day-to-day basis. In our Q&A, there's been a thread of comments there related to just knowing what a great support you are as school resource officers, and Kelly with the PALS program. Going further on what you just shared, Marcus, how can parents support what you do in the schools? What would you like to see in the form of parental support?
That's a great question. In general, I think parent engagement, when we reach out for support is extremely important. I've had incidents where, speaking to the parent and making sure the parent's on the same page with school and with law enforcement goes a long way to kind of really rounding out, how we're developing our students and our children. So that parental engagement, when we're interacting with students, is critical, because if we're providing one message and parents are providing another message at home, then the kids are automatically going to listen to the message that the parents are providing, despite what we may be trying to coach them or teach them. So, making sure that they know what our priorities are, which is usually just in line with the law. We're not asking anything extraordinary from the students. But, if everybody's on the same page, then I think we're most effective, and that's how they can best help us.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to trust us on what we're telling your kids. We're not going to take them down the wrong road. Trust is the biggest thing. We're there to help your kids. Kelly, you got anything?
No, I think everything has been touched on. Absolutely. Parental involvement is amazing and key. So communication and participation is definitely going to help us out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting the Courage to Report tip number in for you as well.
Terrell, we can put that in the follow-up e-note that goes out to families later, so that way everyone will have access to it through their emails.
Okay.
So, this is a totally different topic, but some of the people who are listening to our conversation may be privy to some of the, the Facebook pages that Lindbergh has for parents. So, just in my dealings since I've been there, obviously I've heard a number of different stories. I've seen a number of different things posted on Facebook. So if this is a good time to clear the air, I'll put it out there. As far as Lindbergh school districts dealing with different parents or different incidences, family members and stuff, I think it's important for the greater community to understand that when incidences are reported and they're criminal in nature, Lindbergh School District, they have a priority. They're always going to tell us, okay? They're always going to tell law enforcement. They're mandatory reporters. So are we. When we receive tips and, credible information, we always investigate it. And we as school resource officers may not necessarily have the resources to do further investigation on the topic, but, we take reports. This is not publicly broadcasted. So I think it's important for you guys to understand that Lindbergh School District doesn't just sit on their hands and sit on information when they receive it. They always tell us, and then we, provide it to investigators to do further research or investigation on the topic to come to a resolution. So I think that's important for everybody to understand. No
All right.
questions? Yeah, mic drop.
No more questions. It looks like it's just about continuing partnerships and excited for opportunities for that to continue to develop. So
Yeah.
really want to thank you all for your time tonight. I know there's no place you would rather be on a Tuesday evening. So thank you. It's great to have this relationship that's formed between you, our students, and our families. So it's much appreciated.